Berlin, Germany for our second week of the Spring Split playoffs. Only 6 teams are left vying for the Spring title. Maybe it'll be this one right here, Fnatic. We'll see. But they'll have to take down Team Heretics to get into the next stage of the lower bracket. FLICKR has got the moves with the football, but does he have the moves on the Rift? I think he does, but we'll see indeed. I'm really excited to get back into this. My name is Shox, and yeah, I'm joined here at the desk by Broxa, by Goldborg for later, and also by Finn. But Finn, before you can come to the desk, Corporate needs you to find the difference between these two pictures.
They're the same picture.
Correct, you can come to the desk. Well, as long as we have a green screen and Finn to do stupid gags with, I think we'll be good, right?
At least there's no southern accent this time. Thank God.
There isn't.
Yeah, maybe later.
No.
Don't say that, please.
Oh, Finn, it's happy to have you back. They always come crawling back, don't they?
They always do, right?
Yeah, they always do. We can count it. But we're like tourists. Broxa has been here the whole time. So, Broxa, it's really nice to be on the desk with you. How have you found the spring playoffs so far?
I think it's been very exciting so far. Like, you know, Finn just mentioned with the photos, it is very similar to last split in a lot of ways, but at the same time, curious to see how everything plays out.
Great segue, because I actually wanted to take some time to discuss with you too, knowing that we have some teams where we can now clearly see kind of the changes that you made. Did they work out or not? The improvements that you made, did they work out or not in terms of how far you're getting in these playoffs, right?
Yeah, I mean, the main one is Heretics to me. Like, this team has really stepped up. During the regular season, they looked really, really good. And they did falter a little bit coming to playoffs. Like, maybe the Junkos Trimby synergy still needs to work on some areas, but I do look to them with like a lot of optimism.
Well, they definitely have made it further than they did in winter, because last time it was SK in that spot, but they beat them last week.
Yeah.
Do you share that excitement in terms of Team Heretics and what they have shown so far?
Yeah, I think especially Spyro coming in, replacing Perks, as well as FLICKR have been really underrated, and I think their consistency has been flying under the radar a little bit for me. Like Finn mentioned, it's mostly Jankos and Trimby being on the same page and setting their strong carriers up for success. That's lacking a little bit. Oh,
do you agree that the mid is underrated as well as FLICKR?
I mean, I would say mid is underrated, but I think the combination of Jankos and Trimby's good map play with Wunder's and FLICKR's team fighting is like their main strength. Because I feel like Wunder is a really good team fighter. He knows exactly, like he was on G2 2019. He knows how to fight. And FLICKR as well has been really good in the team fight, so I do think that is usually where Heretics wins the games. At around like 3rd, 4th Dragon, their fighting is really good. Partly due to the setup from Trimby and Jankos, but also the just individual carries.
Okay, we're going to talk about Jankos a little bit later as well, but I also want to talk about Fnatic, and he will be up versus Fnatic. Now, it was Fnatic versus G2 last week, and I feel like, I know I've missed a couple of chapters, but I know that Fnatic was doing very well, closed out the regular season in 1st place. Everyone was very excited about them. So why did it fall so flat versus G2 last week?
Well, I think more than anything, the weak points of Fnatic in playoffs so far have been the solo lanes. Oscar has been inconsistent. Humanoid has been dying a lot for no reason, just overextending and disrespecting. Well, he does normally in the regular split, but we expect different things in playoffs, right? And I think for them, it just comes down to being much more disciplined.
Yeah, I mean, I can also see the power of Fnatic. I mean, Humanoid did solo kill caps in that game 1. Then he kind of threw it away.
He died twice right after.
And then he died again 2 minutes after that. But you know, like, there is still Humanoid in lane. He's like probably one of the best laners we have in the league. And it's going to be tough for Spyro today, I think, because Humanoid is kind of the rookie stomper coming in against Spyro.
I think it's funny you say that, because I'm mostly worried about Humanoid in lane. Laning phase has been a weak point for him in the last 2 series. Again, he just tends to overextend and die a lot. He's disrespectful. His synergy with Jun and Razork isn't always on point. But I think if he goes even, mid and late game, he's a literal monster.
Yeah, and I think we still have the trust in that. Even if he didn't show up in some games, we know what they can show, right? But of course, mid is so important, mid jungle is so important. We're going to talk about it later as well, but it has to work out because it's kind of like, I feel, a minefield going up versus Team Heretics, because they have been underrated and because you have been playing so well in the regular season. But there has to be an X factor there for Heretics.
Well, I think for Heretics, I mean, FLICKR is always going to perform in my mind. I think it really comes down to, like Finn said, that team fighting generally is pretty good, but it's also one of Fnatic's biggest strengths. So you need to figure out how to set yourself up to win those team fights. And I think for them, strong front-to-back fighting, and, you know, just make sure FLICKR can actually hit and carry, because he's usually strong in mid-game.
But as coming back to kind of circling back to why we're having this discussion, have they improved a lot? They have. They are 1 round in the lower bracket further, Finn, but do you see them going any further?
I mean, I think they have the chance. I think it kind of depends on how Trimby and Jankos versus the Jun Razork matchup. This is like, to me, the key matchup to watch today. Obviously, I would favor Fnatic. I think looking at their regular season and their winter split as well, I think they're really strong. But I see glimpses of hopes in Heretics' gameplay.
I'm reading between the lines, and you're saying no, they're not getting any further, but we'll see. Let's talk about Vitality versus MDK as well, but specifically about Vitality. I was watching last week, and I do remember the throws versus BDS because I thought the way they stepped into that series, they were the better team on the day. So how worried are you that this is something that they're gonna repeat when they play MDK later?
I really wish they clean up a little bit. I mean, it is Vitality, it is Karsi Hylesang, so you never know what you're gonna get
Careful,
with those
Pat's
guys.
gonna tweet at you.
Yeah, sorry, Pat, sorry.
Sorry, we don't
But it is also like, I have a lot of faith in Photon, words are hard. Photon, I think, has been one of the shining lights for Vitality, and is going against Mirwin, which in my eyes has been one of the weaker points from Alliance recently, because I feel like Mirwin, he was really good when he had the edge in the matchups, but lately he's been playing these meta matchups, Gnar Renekton,
Why?
Rumble
What's
Renekton.
happened? I come back and watch, and he's so boring.
I know Photon is gonna do good there, so I think it's looking good for Vitality today, I would say.
All right. Well, I'm sorry, I have to cut you off because we have a very important update from Goldblur because it is, of course, all about that spot for MSI. G2 is going, we know that, but who's going to be our second team we send? We need to figure out what's going on with those championship points, and GB will explain it to us.
So let's go for it. Championship points, championship points. We hear about it so often. I've already seen so many comments of MDK at MSI aware. But I want you to know right now that points in spring are worth more than they were in winter. And if you look at the current total of who's up there as a team that would go to MSI, it's actually BDS if G2 wins again. Now, to set the stakes are very easy for our teams right now. Because, of course, if you win, then you're going as our first seed. But let's talk about the scenario where G2 wins the league again. Which team will actually go? Well, it's quite easy, because if you're Vitality or Team Heretics, to make MSIs, all you have to do is just win the split. It's not looking good on points. You need more than you currently have. It's not even enough region finals. You need to take it all the way. You drop games in the elimination bracket, you're out, and we won't see you till summer. For MDK and Fnatic, to reach finals versus G2 in this scenario, very easy. You just need to go there, and then you're going to MSI. You reach finals, you reach MSI. You reach finals, you reach MSI. You got that for MDK? Very important, because if they lose, they're not going. So, very easy to understand. As it looks right now, BD is up there. For the teams in the lower bracket, they just need to win. And as we gear up for Fnatic versus Team Heretics, let's check out Razork's evolution as a player here in the LEC.
I think Razork was fortunate that when push came to shove as the year moved on, the team kind of ramped up around him. He started working pretty well with Oscar, and despite like the last minute substitution of Wonder, he also worked really well with Wonder. And I think that his flexibility and adaptability that year was a big reason that Fnatic were ultimately able to mount a comeback despite two incredibly disastrous splits and a lot of kind of unknowns when it came to those pretty rapid roster swaps.
I will give credit to Kadra on this one, because I was like, I'm struggling on jungle, what do you think? And he was like, no cap, I genuinely think Razork was like the biggest carry jungler of this whole winter. Yeah. So I went back and I rewatched all the VODs. That boy was way more insane than I gave him credit for.
I think right now he thinks way more strategically. It's not even close. I think he grew into one of the best junglers in Europe.
Look at, yeah. He's going for the kick. He gets the kick on Xiaohu into the Magnus Storm, and now Xiaohu's pulled back. Stunned up, locked up, and Oscar Inning joins the fray. That's 2 for Fnatic.
So it was really in the 4th year of his career that I think he started to come into his own and start to look like a confident player again on the Rift, but in a way that was tempered. It wasn't blind aggression anymore. He was making good plays. He was playing around the right lanes and the right champions. He was setting people up. And I think really just blossomed into like a significantly better player.
I felt like winter was gonna be the weakest point for Fnatic in terms of like, okay, we played for 2 weeks with June, and yes, new patch, you know, there is a lot of things to adapt communication-wise, and I felt like this was gonna be our weakest point, and going onwards, we would like get better and better. But right now, I'm just like being annoying with this, but I just want to be disciplined as a team, because I think that's what we are missing the most. And I feel like if we keep doing what we are doing in practice, we will actually show up big in stage, in my opinion, because I feel like all my teammates are very talented, and I think, yeah, we can achieve great things if we just work on this.
I mean, he hit the nail on the head, I'm pretty sure, in terms of that. More discipline overall, by the way. You can find the full version of this content piece over on the LEC socials. But I'm just going to throw it over to you. Do you agree, Goldberg? Is it more discipline that we need to see from Fnatic in order for them to kind of dream? You know, they want to lift that trophy.
Well, it's interesting because I actually didn't think that discipline was the reason why they lost some of their recent series.
Okay.
Instead, I thought they were more figured out in the approach that Jankos actually got, or rather, Razork got hit on by G2 as a whole. But I definitely think that Razork, as a jungler, throughout this entire year, has been the best jungler, the most well-rounded jungler, and I think you can even see that in his champion pool as well, from aggression with a Jax and Xin Zhao, but also more facilitation from a Wire or for Rel instead. So I definitely think that he, as a player himself, has also become more disciplined throughout his career.
Yeah, but he is against Jankos. Jankos owns this league. He's been here forever. Like, today's going to be a really interesting jungle matchup, I think, because I feel like Jankos last week's wasn't the best, considering if you compare to regular season, he didn't have the best performances. I have a vivid memory of the Volibear game against BDS, where he was just farming and didn't have a single side in the entire game, and then eventually got outscaled. So I really want to see a more aggressive Jankos today that plays for his laners more actively.
And I agree, because I thought Jankos was amazing in regular season. I've been so disappointed from what we've actually seen in playoffs so far, because from what he showed last year on Team Heretics, where he was such a 1v9er, from what he showed in regular season this split, he just looked like he was back into his peak form. Obviously, there's a lot more things going into it as a jungler in terms of how do you connect with the rest of your team, what's the game plan like, but in terms of pace from Team Heretics, it definitely got slowed down, and I think they really need a guy like Jankos to step up, get that high pace back. Of course, he's more facilitating, but you can easily still do that with the champion pool that Jankos has available to him.
Stylistically, what does that look like, and how likely is that, Finn, when you look at if Fnatic does play at their peak and how Razork does like to play?
Yeah, I remember the last time they played each other. I remember Razork and Oscar diving Wunder repeatedly, over and over again, but they still lost the game. So I really feel like maybe Razork has to look elsewhere against Heretics, because I feel like shutting down Wunder is not that easy. He will always find a way to sneak back into the game and make himself relevant. So maybe it is mid and bot he has to pay that attention.
Did see a tweet being sent out by Noah saying, I watched all your VODs, Wunder, I know you're going to come bot, I got it. And he said, well, it's going to be one already, so don't worry about that. The spice is there. For now, though, we're going to send it over to Lore, who is standing by with Humanoid.
Thank you, Shox, and thank you, Marek, of course, for joining me ahead of your series. They were just talking about your jungler and the matchup against Jankos. What do you think of this matchup, and what is going to make Razork stand out?
I mean, I think Razork is playing pretty well this year, so I think he's really good at being aggressive in the early game. I think our early games have been usually very good, except last week. So I think he's better at early game pathing and ganking. So I think he's just going to come out ahead.
It's going to be interesting, especially in the early game, because as you said, last week was a bit meh. But it was the same thing that can be said for Heretics. And when I look at early game stats, you guys look bad, honestly, but they look back as well. So Razork having the advantage in the early game, do you think it's going to be enough? Do you think you fixed your early game from last week?
Well, if we didn't fix it from last week, then we are just going to get stumped again. So I'm hoping that we did, and I think we did. So I think it's for sure going to be a lot better.
Okay, give me hope and give Fnatic fans hope here. Why do you think you made improvements since last week? What have you guys been working on?
Well, it's kind of hard to not make improvements from last week. Yeah. So I think we just kind of had a really bad week. So everyone was like, okay, we need to do something about it. Then we talked a lot in the team, but we need to focus on. I think we figured it out pretty well, and we had a decent week of practice. So I think we're coming in this week with way better preparation.
Confidence, and let's trust practice here. Any words on Heretics and how they've been playing so far? The changes that they implemented in the player department, especially.
I mean, they for sure look better than last split, right? I don't think they are that scary. I think they usually just win kind of through like team fighting. They don't really do much other than that. So I'm really confident that we can take them easily.
All right, well, let's hope it shows today. Marek, thank you so much. Good luck today against Heretics. And Dagda Dracos, back to you.
Thank you very much, Lore.